Hi, I'm Jamie. I live in Seattle and I take my two dogs, Ember and Ash, on weekly adventures in the mountains. I hike, camp, and road trip only to places where I can bring my two favorite travel buddies. This week we did a backpacking trip to an alpine lake, where it snowed overnight and then we woke up to an incredible view of Mt Rainier. This week has been very interesting. I was looking at one of my old YouTube accounts and I noticed on a video that I had posted 10 years ago when I lived in Australia that a rep from BBC, the BBC, had reached out to me asking to use it in a show. The comment was a few years old, but I figured I would email them back and just, see if they're still interested. And it turns out they had actually just used it, which I'm totally fine with because they were like, hey, cool, we're glad you reached out, let's pay you. And I'm like, yes, give me money for doing absolutely nothing, thank you. But yeah, you could say I made my first dollars off YouTube and without even realizing it. I think that's going to be the extent of my luck in that department, but I'm taking it as a small win.
Around the world, animal thieves are wreaking havoc.
In more serious news, there's been a few solo hikers that have gone missing, and it's unnerving, but I'm not going to let it stop me from doing my weekly solo hikes. I'm actually thinking of doing a video on the safety measures I take while I do my solo hikes, so stay tuned for that. Also, I got my ballot in the mail. I'm going to drop it off in a ballot box in the next week, so go vote. There's also this new donut shop that opened recently. I'm a sucker for donuts. Ever since I moved here from Chicago, I've always complained that Seattle doesn't have good donuts. But I think I may have found a place that I actually like more than any of my favorite donut places in Chicago. It's called the Flower Box, and it opened very recently as a brick and mortar shop. But the baker behind it has all this hype on Instagram, and honestly it's very well deserved. I was able to get a pre-order. These pre-orders sell out in minutes, and that's the only way she's selling her donuts right now. And I got the creme brulee and the honey lavender brioche donuts, and whew, the hype is very well deserved. The honey lavender, top favorite donut of all time. So hopefully I get my hands on more of these in the future. But now back to hiking. Summit Lake is about a 2-hour drive from Seattle. After getting off the highway, you'll go through some adorable small towns, wind through gorgeous forests, and drive over historic-looking bridges. After the final bridge, the road turns rocky and goes through an active logging area, which means there are lots of branches and full-on trees on the road. They've been cleared just enough so any high-clearance vehicle can easily pass, but sedans will likely have more trouble and should avoid going on this road altogether. On a clear day, you'll get glimpses of Rainier as you approach the parking lot. I strapped on my hiking shoes, loaded the oversized pack on my back, and set forth on the trail. Most of it is gradually climbing up through a forest, and being mid-October, the trail is very wet. There was also a thick fog that surrounded the mountain, giving an iconic Pacific Northwest look. As I approached the lake, snow started to appear. with more and more appearing as I got closer to the summit. After the first view of the lake, the trail curves and climbs over and around it, giving plenty of opportunity to stop and get a different, more dramatic view. There are also established camping areas scattered through this portion where you can stop and set up camp. I continued to the top, and after checking out the lack of view at the summit, I headed to the last site I saw that had promising views should the clouds recede and let Rainier show off. Summit Lake gets very busy in the summer. It is almost unheard of to get to have it all to yourself. And yet I did. All it took was the weather dropping below freezing and a little rain and snow. With less daylight in the fall, after I set up camp, I had about an hour or so before sunset. The evening remained overcast, so I settled into my tent, made my lasagna soup mountain house meal, cracked open an ice cold IPA, and then read the night away. In the morning, I slept in just a little past sunset, but woke up just in time to catch the now totally clear view being basked in the most stunning golden light. A fresh layer of snow had fallen, giving the most dreamy setting to open the tent up to. After getting some stunning photos, I nestled myself into the rocky corner of the campsite and made myself the most idyllic little breakfast nook. I boiled some water for some warm blueberry granola and fresh pour-over coffee. And I'm not going to lie, this tops any bougie brunch spot I've ever been to. When it came time to pack up, I wiped off the ice that had formed on my tent, stuffed everything back into my pack, and I had forgotten the dog's pack outside, so it was completely frozen over. So I ended up strapping that to the back of my pack and carried everything out myself. On the way down, we were met with way more people than I was anticipating. It was a gorgeous day, so I shouldn't have been so shocked, but it reminded me of how lucky I was to have the entire stay at Summit Lake all to myself. overnight hiking trips never cease to amaze me, and this one was perfect. I am really glad I got to sneak in at least one more backpacking trip before more snow is expected. Not really sure what I'm gonna do with the next week, but guess we'll find out. So until then, see ya!